Okay guys, final season. I felt really sad once I started the season because it felt like it was coming to an end, you know? Like honestly, it never hit me when I was a kid that the show ended. I remember, I don't know how old I was, but I look back on it and I was like, how did this show even end? Did it have a conclusive ending? I had no idea. So it just feels like I'm going into that all over again. But alas, we must go on. Courage is doing his silly little yo-yo tricks. And Eustace makes him clean the porch. He also tosses the yo-yo out the window, but it makes a little splash, so when they go outside, they see that there is a lake outside of their house. They put on their bathing suits, excited to play in the water, and Eustace is more excited that he now has a lakefront property. Courage wants to join in, but Eustace doesn't let him, so Muriel tells him to shut his ass up. He can come in with her.
You just come with me into the water and enjoy yourself.
So I'm glad that she's finally standing up to Eustace a little more instead of just saying, oh, don't worry, Courage, like, you can come. It's like, no, Eustace, shut up, he's coming in with me. Courage jumps in and finds a lobster playing with his yo-yo. He hears Muriel from inside calling for help, and when he goes in, he realizes the house is flooding quickly. Courage swims out and sees that the entire town is getting flooded, not just their house. He finds someone and asks them for help, and he tells them that something must be blocking the old lake.
Must be something huge blocking it up.
Courage gets to it, and it's a giant concrete dam, and he sees his beaver finishing up building it. The beaver doesn't want to hear Courage out, and when Courage falls, he sees the lobster with his yo-yo and steals the bag. And then the beaver pours cement on Courage. The only part of Courage that's free is his hand with the yo-yo, so he attaches it to this little metal thing outside and then uses the yo-yo to make these little noises. This attracts the beaver, who has been making a steady beat with his tail when he's making the dam. He comes down and sees Courage playing a little beat with his yo-yo, and the lobster wants to steal the yo-yo back. So he puts a dynamite there and blows up Courage and the beaver. The beaver tells him that he can't play music, and when Courage asks why, we get this whole backstory on the beaver. He always wanted to play drums, but his dad always said no, he has to go into construction. Courage plays some tunes on his yo-yo, and the beaver can't resist, so starts joining in.
Crazy man!
He joins in and taps his tail so hard that the dam crumbles. And then the flood is gone. They go to a hot jazz performance that night, and Courage and the beaver are performing, and in the audience are Eustace and Muriel and the beaver's mom and dad. And also the lobster. So they use the same end screen for this season too, but it's so cute so it doesn't matter. They're at a junkyard and they are looking for goodies. I don't know what they're doing. I think they're just thrifting.
This is better than shopping.
Eustace finds a nutcracker that Courage is scared of until Muriel shows him how it works, and then Courage loves it. He has a tea party with it and the robot from season 1, Randy. Truck dumps out the garbage, and it's the last truck of the night, so they lock up the dump, trapping all of them inside. Courage is the only one that seems to mind. And the sun sets and we hear the nutcracker theme, and Courage sees rats everywhere and they're balleting. And they steal Muriel from Courage. Courage sniffs through the sewer and he finds Muriel and Eustace screaming, and he uses the nutcracker as a telescope and sees that they're being boiled alive. Courage goes to rescue them, and they do this whole little ballet number back and forth, and they get served. Once they leave, Courage destroys all of the junk piles, thus destroying the rats' homes. And then Eustace uses the nutcracker to crack a nut, but it's so delicate that he breaks all of his teeth. But it's cute because its teeth now match Courage's teeth. Eustace is clipping his disgusting nails when there's a knock at the door. It's a telegram for Muriel. It's from her great uncle Agnes from Scotland.
I didn't even know I had a great Uncle Angus.
He tells her that the last relative to know the secret family kill pattern has died, so she's the only one left. And he needs them to go to Scotland, and Eustace thankfully doesn't want to go, so it's just her and Courage. At the airport gate, they meet up with Uncle Agnes. And he's very interested in the secret pattern. At his home, he shows him the bedroom that doesn't have a bed, just this thing in it to make these kilts. He tells her that he'll get them the bed if she just starts making the kilt. And she agrees. She makes one and he's like, oh my god, thank you so much. Can you also make 4,999 more? And she's like, are you crazy? No. And he tells her that he has department stores breathing down his neck to get these orders fulfilled. And also, I'm not your great Uncle Agnes.
What's more, you don't have a great Uncle Angus, and you never did.
So Muriel's like, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna leave. But he threatens to make them into shepherd pie if she tries, so she's stuck there. They're trapped in this tower, and Muriel tells Courage that she can lower him down like Rapunzel, but Muriel has 0 hang time, so Courage just falls off from the tower. He also falls into the moat and the drawbridge opens and he sees a lady leaving crying because she just got fired because she broke the #1 rule, which is uttering his name. This was his mom. He realizes, okay, I can get Muriel fired if she utters his name, but I just have to figure out what his name is. So he comes up with a little scheme where he knocks as this guy with a giant $1 million check.
Just tell us your name so we can complete the check.
He just makes it out to cash. Courage is outside by the trash pouting because he failed when the guy's mom comes through and tells him his name because she doesn't think that it's that bad.
I gave him a perfectly lovely name.
Muriel had until sunrise to complete all 5,000 kilts, but she only got to like 4,300. So Courage goes into the room and tries to tell her about the name thing, but she can't understand him.
What's that you're saying? Wrinkled pimple skin?
And then the guy comes in and Courage decides to play charades with them. Rump. Old. Kiltskin. And this is his name, Rumpled Kiltskin. And he freaks out and tells her to get out.
No! Get out! Out!
Muriel tries to tell him that his name is not that bad and he starts crying in her lap. She's like, why don't you just change your name? She suggests Rumpelstiltskin. He loves it and offers to go into business with Muriel and she agrees. So now Muriel is getting her bag. At this house, this guy is celebrating his liberation of loneliness with a sardine dinner. The answer to it is this thing. We hear a groan complaining about it, and then we find out that this guy is Dr. Gerhans van Orbison. Hold on. Dr. Gerhard van Orbison. And he is excited to finally have neighbors. He plays a record called House Calls, and the tunes flow in the wind. Straight to our fave house. The tunes literally pick up the house and put it right next to Dr. Orbison's house. There's a knock at the door, and when they open it, it's the doctor with a welcome basket of sardines.
We have neighbors. Why, thank you.
Don't wait for a tip.
Courage takes a peek and sees the house right across from them with a swirling vortex on top of it. He tries to warn them, but they pay him absolutely no mind.
A sound doctor. How unusual. No, but you could teach me.
There's pounding at the door and it's the house. The doctor says that she's doing it again. Apparently he used music to bring his house to life, but she has become increasingly jealous. She comes in with her rug tongue and snatches him back home.
Why can't I have neighbor?
And then she starts using her beams to destroy their farmhouse. They hide in the basement and Muriel thinks that the house is just jealous because it looks like trash compared to their house. So Courage gets the idea to go over and starts doing a paint job on this house. He paints the entire thing pink, and then inside the doctor's like, oh my god, that's a great idea, and they start painting inside as well. Not only do they repaint it, but they also clean it up, and then the house calms down. And it looks so good. He plays some tunes and even more houses pop up with more neighbors, and one of them is the mayor.
Houses everywhere.
Hello, neighbor.
The mayor asks them if that's their farmhouse outside, and they're like, yeah. And he's like, oh no, sorry, we're not zoned for farmhouses, so you gotta go or we'll demolish it. They tell each other that they'll miss them, but that true neighbors can never be separated by how far their houses are. And before they can even try to go, their house completely collapses. LeQuack returns again. Muriel is making Scottish dream cookies, and the recipe calls for 4 pounds of butter. This is a crumble cookie recipe.
I love my Scottish dream cookies buttery.
Eustace barges in, not being able to find his glasses, and Muriel makes Courage become his guide dog. Courage goes outside to help him look for the glasses and sees this balloon pop up.
Where?
And inside he recognizes LeQuack. He tries to go inside to warn Muriel.
You're right, Courage. I should make it 5 pounds of butter.
It doesn't work. While she's distracted, LeQuack uses this opportunity to switch her cookbook from a Scottish cookbook to a Swedish cookbook. And the Swedish dream cookies require an ingredient that she doesn't have, which is rare Swedish vinegar. Where is she gonna find that? There's a knock at the door, and it's LeQuack telling her that he has a balloon company that can take her to Sweden so she can get her vinegar. Eustace doesn't want to go, which is fine. Courage wants to go with Muriel, but LeQuack tells him that the balloon can only hold 2 people, so he can't go. In the balloon, LeQuack attaches something to Muriel's ankle and then opens the trapdoor beneath her, and she just free falls.
So relaxed and without a care.
Courage sees this and goes to try to catch her, dragging Eustace through all this terrain. When he's just about to catch her, she bungees all the way back to the balloon, and she is petrified. LeQuack tells her that this is the only way that she can get the vinegar. She has to go in, get it, come back up. And then he drops her again for more practice. Tells himself that there is no Swedish vinegar, but there is a Swedish piggy bank, and he's going to use Muriel to get it. They fly over New York. Courage also makes it to New York, and it's so noisy. I love it.
Where are we now?
Courage hitches a ride on a cruise ship, and they end up in Rome. And then Paris. And Muriel is getting much better at bungee jumping, so now LeQuack thinks that she's ready. They go over to the Swedish piggy bank, and LeQuack tells her that the rare vinegar is underneath all of these green leaves inside the piggy bank. Muriel is able to get all of the money from the piggy bank, and she says that she still couldn't find the vinegar. So LeQuack tells her she needs to go one more time and just look for it again. And when she goes, he starts sawing the bungee cord.
I must drop the ballast.
At this point, the US government, who is helping Sweden guard this piggy bank, spots her and then just starts firing cannonballs at her. Eustace gets swept up on one of the cannonballs, and this is the one that goes right through the balloon, causing the quack's balloon to come down, and then everything blows up, including the piggy bank and the money.
How disgusting.
Eustace gets blown back all the way to the farm, and he falls straight into the toilet where he finds his glasses.
Right where I thought they were.
Meanwhile, Muriel and Courage get blasted into this Swedish shop where they see the rare vinegar, so they're making their cookies.
You gotta fly, baby, fly.
No peeking.
Eustace is watching TV, and Muriel is welding an iron statue of Courage.
You look gorgeous in wrought iron, Courage.
The windmill outside gets messed up, and the power starts to go out. Muriel tells him to go fix the windmill and to actually fix it, not just fix it temporarily. She wants it fixed. Eustace makes Courage come up and bring him a wrench, and from a distance, Courage can see this black cloud coming towards them. It disappears once the windmill starts moving again, and then Eustace tells Courage to hold this wrench in place until he gets back. It's a lot for Courage, so he stops, but then once he stops, he sees the black cloud coming again, and he sees these skeleton Vikings on it. He freaks out and starts holding it again so that the windmill can keep going, and then they disappear again. But then he falls off, so the Vikings appear again. The Vikings surround them and start attacking him, so he runs up again, but this time he accidentally scrapes off one of the blades on the windmill, revealing this symbol. When he falls back down, they disappear because the windmill is moving again, and Muriel and Eustace come out. They see a bunch of flakes coming from the windmill, and when they look up, they see these symbols on each one of the blades. Courage takes a pic of each one and brings it to the computer, and the computer tells them a history lesson about the windmill. It was built 250 years ago by the first owner of the farmhouse, Giles Gillette. He built this when everyone was using water wheels that were built by these vandals. Once the water dried up, they hated the farmer for his windmill, so they tried to destroy it. But he carved these magical symbols to keep them away. If the windmill stops, they rise from the dead and try to seek vengeance on whoever owns the windmill. The power goes out again, and Courage sees the vandals making their way to the windmill. They surround the three of them, and one of them decapitates Eustace. I'm not even kidding, he's missing his head. Courage runs in the windmill like a treadmill, and then this is when Muriel realizes that it's the windmill that's keeping these guys away. But Eustace is the only one who knows how to fix it. Eustace's headless body tries to fix it, but just swings an axe and destroys the entire thing. So now the vandals come back, and they decapitate Muriel too. And Courage talks again.
Is there a doctor in the house?
He tries to get Muriel's head back, but he accidentally puts it on Eustace's body. And then Courage gets decapitated too. Eustace's head goes on Courage's body, and it's a mess. They finally get away and are able to switch their heads back, and they start rebuilding this windmill. The windmill finally works again, and then the symbols reveal to be little pieces of the farmer, and once they start spinning, it forms the farmer. This scares Courage, so he falls off onto Muriel and Eustace, and then all of their heads pop out again.
Stupid dog.
Side note, aside from the decapitation in this episode, I really love the red sky during the whole thing.
Damn, 5'8", Lord, I hope she ain't late. Big leg sister, hope she ain't late.
Muriel is sick, but she's still tending to Eustace, and I hate this man so much. She sneezes this out. they're prisoners in this sweatshop and they need to be freed. Cole isn't going to be going away until she does because the cure is there with them. He gives them a map to where they are, and Courage takes Muriel through this swamp. The swamp is adorned by these things. They finally get to the place where the slug is at, and the slug comes out to tell them that these are statues of the snake who imprisoned them, Big Bayou. And they follow the slug inside and see a group of them, and they tell them that Bayou is very vain, so they have to spend their lives making these statues of him from his old snake skin. But only his magic can break the chains off of them. So Courage asks, okay, where's the cure for Muriel? And they say, oh, sorry, we don't know. We only stole a little bit of magic. You're gonna have to get the cure from Bayou's big book of magic that's at his house. So Muriel's like, yeah, we'll do it, but after the snap. So it's up to Courage. Courage finds Big Bayou's lair by following the singing. He sees him come out and greet the statue. He sheds again. He then says that he's gonna go say hi to every other statue. But this guy is very conceited.
Oh, yes, I am pretty. I love me.
Courage sneaks through the eye window and sees the book, and he just destroys his house to try to get it. He runs back to the slugs, and when he gets there, Muriel is not doing well. The slugs actually tell Courage to cure her first and then free them afterwards, which I had this weird feeling that they were going to betray Courage somehow, but no, they're just really nice slugs. The cure is to act like a chicken. It doesn't work. But then Courage lays an egg. He cracks this egg open, Muriel eats it, and then she's cured.
Oh my! I feel myself again.
Courage goes to free the slugs next, but Big Bayou finds him and chases him throughout the swamp. In the water, Courage reads the book and finds out that these statues that are all over the swamp, Courage can bring them to life and have them be his slaves.
Use deadly venom from a real bayou snake.
So then when Big Bayou catches up to him, he uses the book to shield himself from the bite. His venom pours out and Courage splashes it onto the statues. He then tells the statues to attack Big Bayou, and they do. Bayou can't even defend himself because he can't fight himself. So these snakes just engulf him completely. It's a really unsettling scene.
I can't do this.
It turns out Muriel just filed the slugs free, so they're saved. And then at home, Eustace is now sick. He sneezes this out. And then Courage starts doing the chicken dance for the cure. On TV, the newscaster says it's hunting season, and Eustace gets upset and turns it off and goes outside to pout. Outside, there's an air show about a hunting contest. The biggest deer wins. He goes back inside and throws a tantrum.
Eustace, is something the matter?
He goes a little crazy and draws himself and his dead brother onto his feet, and then does a little show about how he wanted to go hunting with his brother, but his brother never let him.
Can I come hunting with you? No, you puny little...
This leads to a flashback of him being left behind, and his brother calls him useless.
See you later, useless.
Eustace decides to get his hunting gear and he goes himself. Muriel makes Courage go to make sure that he doesn't hurt himself. In the forest, Courage befriends this family of deer and he just looks so precious. But then, of course, Eustace ruins it by trying to take a shot at the big deer. Courage takes the hit instead, but this alerts the deer into running away. The father deer has had it with hunting season, so he decides to take a stand finally.
I'm going hunting. A deer's gotta do what a deer's gotta do.
Courage finds the deer practicing on Eustace targets and now has to protect Eustace from this deer. The deer eventually catches them in a trap and Courage begs for their lives, so they agree to play a little game instead. Muriel is watching from TV, and the animal crowd is actually a few animals that we've seen before. The first question is to name this constellation, and Eustace says,
That bears dots. A whole mess of dots.
the winning question is to name the planet, and Eustace says.
It's a bowling ball.
So Eustace doesn't win, and he's mad and takes a shot at the deer. Courage saves them, but the blast hits this bear's lollipop, so he comes mad as trying to figure out who did it. Eustace says that it wasn't him, he's not a hunter, he's just a deer. So he rips out the deer's scalp and antlers and pretends to be a deer.
He's the hunter, not me.
He frolics into the forest, and then the other hunters see him and start shooting at him. At home, Muriel and Courage see on TV that a hunter found this weird looking deer, and it's Eustace.
I'm a deer. Useless the deer.
At Kev's Curio, Muriel is buying this locket, perfect for her pictures, her favorite pictures, one of her and Courage and one of Eustace.
And here's one of Eustace for the other side.
They leave and Eustace wants to take a look at this locket that he just had to pay for, and he's not paying attention to the road, so the truck veers off and falls into a swamp. Muriel's locket gets lost in the swamp while this happens. Eustace makes Muriel and Courage go out and push, and then when it doesn't work, he resorts to scaring Courage into pushing the truck all the way back up to the top. Muriel's locket sinks to the bottom of the swamp and is found by this. This thing takes a liking to Muriel. It comes out of the swamp and vows to find his swamp woman. He sniffs around for her and ends up in the first shop that we were in and destroys it when the owner says that he doesn't know who that is. There's a breaking news report about the swamp man destroying the city.
Swamp woman, I want you back.
Ugly man ain't getting a girlfriend back unless she's blind and stupid.
The swamp man eventually makes it to the farmhouse. Courage tries his best to stop him, but he kidnaps Muriel. And vows to make her his bride. Courage looks online to find his real girlfriend, and they find a bunch of profiles until they find hers. Her name is Catherine, and she works as a postal worker.
She's located in a small town called Vlotsendel-Nixburg.
So Courage goes and talks to her and finds out that she left him because he used to always get mad at her for being so forgetful. But she is kind of like Dory from Finding Nemo. Courage tells her that he's been waiting centuries to marry her, so she thinks, okay, maybe he's not so impatient anymore.
He waited how long for me?
But then immediately forgets who Courage is and what he's doing there. Courage still manages to get her to the swamp, and the two swamp people reunite. The swamp man says, oh my god, it's been so long, I must have forgotten what you even look like. And so she says, yeah, we can all be a little forgetful sometimes. She tells him that she never answered any of his letters because by the time she would get home from work, she would forget where she lived. And this sets the swamp man off.
How could you forget where you live?
And then they start arguing, and while this is happening, Courage just sneaks Muriel and gets the heck out of there. He also finds her locket and returns it to her.
Oh my, such a good dog.
So she doesn't lose her favorite pictures.
Hey, when did we get underwater?
Swamp woman.
Muriel is bedridden because her back is aching her. They take her to the doctor, but the doctor can't do anything. He does suggest that they go to the top of Mount Nowhere because there's a hot spring with healing waters in there.
A hot spring with healing waters. Yay!
Courage is pulling the two of them up the mountain on this wagon. At the top, there's this goat waiting for them. He rams into Eustace, throwing him off the mountain into the arms of this creature.
What's
And then Muriel begs him to just let her go to the hot springs, so he does exactly that. He charges her and she goes flying. He does the same to Courage. When they land, there's no water because the hot spring has dried up. The goat tells them that they used to go up there for a spa treatment, but then a human explorer found it, and more humans came and used up all the water and left it completely trashed. Not only that, but then they also would push the goats off of the mountain, so this goat decided to do the same to the humans. The whole time, this goat's neck is obviously hurting him, and Muriel says that she would help him if she wasn't in so much pain. So the goat says, "Oh yeah, you want to see pain?" And he throws a boulder at Muriel. And this was actually shocking to me because normally Courage would take this hit, but this time Muriel was the one to take it, and she doesn't usually get hurt. Courage also gets a boulder, but he is able to remove his skeleton from his body out of the boulder's way and then just take his skin out from under it. The goat chases Courage and he falls off the edge. He's hanging onto the bottle, but then the bottle comes loose and he falls with it. But in that little hole that the bottle was in, water starts coming out. So Courage unclogged the hot spring and then water starts flowing again. Muriel, who is in the water, immediately feels better, and they bring the goat inside too, and he also feels better. Courage files down his horns back to normal and also takes out all the trash from the hot spring. The ape lady that we saw earlier comes with Eustace and asks if there's anything for a broken heart. Courage is watching a super scary movie. And Eustace uses this as an opportunity to scare him yet again. As if he ever needs an opportunity, he just does it. When he crashes in the window, he sees this rocket-like thing blow up on top of their house, and the pieces start to come down, but then the fragments sink into the ground. Courage tries to warn them, but no one listens to him. And the next day, they come out and see that a giant carrot has grown in their garden. While in the kitchen thinking about what to do with it, it gets even bigger. And Muriel can't help herself, so she just starts eating this carrot. She damn near finishes it. And then we see that she starts growing herself. Eustace is watching a news story about an experimental missile that went missing. The general also warns them that if this missile explodes over your house and into your garden and a giant carrot grows out of it, do not eat it. You will grow to the size of a farmhouse.
And then, kaboom!
There's a $10 million reward for anyone who finds it. Courage takes Muriel upstairs to do an endoscopy, and he finds this carrot bomb inside of her. Eustace forces Courage to go inside to get that carrot because it's $10 million. And when he does, he tries, but it's really stuck on there. At this point, Muriel grows bigger than the house, and then out of nowhere, she's like, I don't think I'm gonna blow up anymore. And then she burps out Courage and starts to shrink down to normal. Turns out that Courage ate the carrot, and now he's the one growing bigger. He runs all the way to area 51 3/4 and tries to get help from the general and the lieutenant. The general goes inside of Courage and disarms it, and he spits out the general and the carrot. Eustace catches up to them and starts eating the carrot, but the general tells him that it's worthless because he cut the green wire or the red wire or one of the wires, and then the lieutenant tells him that that's not right. Eustace starts growing and growing and then explodes. Courage runs back to the farm and finds so many more giant carrots and Muriel eating a bowl of them. At the carnival, this guy is cutting out paper silhouettes and he's trying to bring them to life, but it's not working. He overhears Muriel, Courage, and Eustace playing at the funhouse mirrors.
That's an improvement if you ask me.
And he offers to do a full silhouette of them. He does them, they take them home, and while they're in the truck, the artist whispers to them,
Live, children. I shall come for you soon.
On the ride home, Courage sees the silhouettes moving a little bit. In the house, Muriel hangs them up and they begin to copy what their respective people do. So Muriel's copies Muriel's and then Eustace's copies Eustace's. That makes sense, right? Muriel goes to bed and Eustace falls asleep on his chair. Just then, the silhouettes come out of their frames. Eustace's goes on top of him while he's sleeping on the couch and just absorbs his life. Next is Muriel's, and she does the same to her sleeping in her bed. The next day, Paper, Muriel, and Eustace are fraudulently living their lives, but it's awkward because they don't really know what to do. So Muriel is trying to knit, but then she just stabs herself with the needle because she's Paper.
Oh dear.
Eustace goes outside to fix the truck, but he can't even open the hood. Muriel tries to make tea, but then the hot kettle burns her paper hand. And Courage dumps this water on her to try to save her, but she just becomes soggy. He hangs her out to dry, and this is where he starts to feel bad for them, so he decides to color on them. They play outside, and once they're done, he brings them back to Muriel and Eustace so that they can give them their life back. And they don't seem to mind because they're happy as Paper. The artist bikes to the farm and he sees them having a blast as Paper kites. And he realizes that his art is still alive even though it's just paper, and he takes them home. Muriel comes downstairs and sees Courage making his own little silhouettes for them, and then we realize that Courage is Paper. This is probably the darkest episode on the show. It deals with a lot of heavy topics, but in a Courage the Cowardly Dog way. As a child, you can watch this and not really get it, but then if you're an adult watching this, you realize who and what all of these characters represent. Things get very, very heavy. It starts with Courage and Muriel in the chicken coop. This person walks towards them, saying that dogs are evil, and beats the shit out of Courage. Muriel thinks that this is just Courage's new friend, so she invites her for a cup of tea.
Oh, playing with your new friend.
And when Courage protests, she's like, okay, you're right, you guys can play outside first. And then she beats him again.
Such a lovely girl.
During tea time, she tells him that her name is Kitty, and she comes from the wrong side of the tracks. Her bestie, Bunny, fell in love with a gangster, and he treats her like a slave. When he found out she was trying to sneak away with Bunny, he threatened Kitty's life. She was forced to leave without Bunny and is devastated that she can't see Bunny ever again. Eustace says some slick shit about her mask,
Take that mask off, you might see better.
so she tosses his plate off of the table. Later that night, Courage is watching a show that's dogs versus cats, and he laughs when the dog is winning. Kitty sees this and starts beating him with a fish. Muriel walks in on this and thinks that they're just playing and doesn't help Courage. What's wrong with you? At dinner, Eustace asks Kitty what she's hiding behind her mask, and she says that she doesn't want to face reality. Muriel says that everyone has to face reality, and Kitty is offended by this and is like, oh yeah, just like how you always sneak an extra piece of dessert, or you, Eustace, who can't fix anything but pretends like he can. Like, okay, girl, calm down. Muriel still gives her a bed in the attic, and Courage peeps in through the keyhole and sees her play with this little mouse, and then she takes off her mask to reveal that she is a cat. He locks Kitty in and runs to the bedroom to warn them. Muriel is upset at him because she doesn't understand how he can say all these things about her. She's just a girl who grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. Meanwhile, Courage is scared that she's a monster trying to eat them. He locks the bedroom door and sneaks into the attic through the window. He steals her little mouse toy and then steals a truck and goes to this diner. For a milkshake and reads on the bottom of the toy that it says, "To Kitty from Bunny." We've seen this diner before, and also the worker, and he goes up to Courage and asks him if he knows Kitty and Bunny.
Right.
He says that they were really sweet together, but Mad Dog is so jealous and didn't like them being so friendly.
He didn't like him being so friendly-like.
He tells Courage that his gang's actually up the block, and when he gets Bunny out, to tell her that Charlie says hey. Courage goes to Mad Dog's place and sees him get home with Bunny.
Move your tail, Bunny.
Back at home, Kitty wakes up and finds her little toy missing and just freaks out. Eustace and Muriel can hear her freaking out upstairs, but they're busy arguing because the door is locked and Muriel needs to use the bathroom. Eustace can't open the door, so she says that Kitty was right, he can't fix anything. In Mad Dog's house, he sees that Bunny is still upset, and he threatens her to forget about her.
If I even smell Kitty, I'll bury the two of you.
This makes Bunny cry, and as she's crying, Mad Dog tries to manipulate her and asks if they can just go back to normal, if it could just be them. As they're hugging, Bunny sees a lamp on the wall, and she hooks Mad Dog's collar onto it. But then when she opens the door, two of his crew members are outside waiting for her, and she can't escape. Courage watches all of this through the window. At home, Eustace escaped through the window to try to get Kitty out. He can't, he's trying everything. Meanwhile, Kitty already escaped through the window herself. And then Muriel escaped her bedroom using a bobby pin. We cut back to Bunny and she's been buried in this pot. Courage tries to get her attention from the window, but she sees it's just another dog, so she's not interested. Courage shows her the little toy that she has, and she recognizes it as Kitty's, so she begs Courage to hurry up and save her before they come back. Courage isn't able to open the window, so he just breaks the glass. But then one of Mad Dog's boys hears it and comes into the room. Courage turns off the light and beats the shit out of this guy. He's able to unbury Bunny, but then another one of Mad Dog's boys comes in. It cuts back to the farm really quick, and then when it cuts back to Courage, he beat the shit out of that one too and buried both of them just like how they buried Bunny. Bunny tries to escape through the door, but then sees that Mad Dog is coming, so they have to go through the window. On the fire escape, the ladder doesn't reach all the way to the bottom, so Courage just unhooks it and they fall, but Courage breaks the fall for Bunny. At home, Muriel and Eustace apologize for picking on each other based on what Kitty said about them. Back with Courage, Mad Dog gets in his car and starts chasing after them. Courage hears a train coming, so he gives Bunny the toy and tells her to just run and he'll distract Mad Dog. He he drives right past Courage. He goes straight for Bunny, who's running on the train tracks. Courage sees this and starts running towards the car. He's able to jump on it, crash through the car, and then swerve it so that the car crashes into the train. The train wrecks the car. Mad Dog is messed up, but then so is Courage. Throughout the episode, Courage kept having these visions of Muriel getting eaten by the mask monster, and this was the final push that he needed to finally get into the car and defeat Mad Dog once and for all. And it's just really sad that he did that while also sacrificing himself. After the crash, he has one final vision of him saving Muriel and Eustace from the mask. Bunny thanks him for saving him, but then here's Kitty. She starts running after the train, telling her that that dog saved her, and then Kitty says that she was wrong about dogs. They both thank him and now can be besties forever.
Now we can be best friends forever.
Muriel is outside waiting for Courage to get home, and he pulls up in the truck.
Courage! Where have you been, dog?
He just plops down because he's tired, and Muriel tells him that Kitty left, but she left something behind that Eustace took a liking to.
Well, it doesn't work. Ah! Uriel, you got a bobby pin?
The creator actually has no idea how they let this episode slide. There's clear messages about domestic violence, lesbianism, feminism, a cycle of abuse. It's heavy, and seeing Courage always... And Courage was actually able to defeat these two giant dogs. We've seen him get absolutely wrecked from other villains, not nearly as strong. And the only thing that motivated him was saving Muriel. This is top tier for sure. In this castle, Dai Lung's aunt tells him that the source of all her powers is checking out this magic silkworm. With her magic fading away, they will sense that she's vulnerable, and in order to contact this magic silkworm, they need the bones of someone truly innocent. So she makes her nephew find that truly innocent person. Our Faves and Eustace are at the Great Wall of China, on vacation yet again.
Longest structure ever made. One of mankind's great wonders.
Dai Lung spots them and sets his sights on Muriel. He entraps Muriel in this bubble that he used a frog to create. Courage sees this and uses the same frog to also ride to the top in this bubble. At the castle, Muriel is tied up, and Courage sees him about to debone her. He begs the Empress not to do this, but she just laughs and makes the room spin, and then Courage somehow appears at this soup place. He has the box with the silkworm in it, and the lady asks him how he's gonna pay for his soup reading, and he gives her this box. It's good enough for her, so she starts doing a reading and tells him that he needs to begin his journey, starting with that tiger over there. That tiger, by the way, that's chewing on a baby right now. Courage dumps the soup all over him to get the tiger to eat him, and the lady tells him that his first lesson is to relax in the face of danger. She tells him to concentrate on peaceful images, and he imagines Muriel, and he melts out of the tiger. Continues his mission and hitches a ride with these musicians on the back of this truck. They're jamming out, but then they start getting attacked by these darts. Courage tries to hide in this jug, but the jug falls off the truck and shatters, so he's exposed. The lady, now as a bird, tells him to use his enemy's force. So he grabs a dart, and every time a new one comes, he uses the last one to catch it, and he creates this giant trail. He uses this as a bridge to cross over and escape. He makes it to the castle, but it's guarded by this dragon, who starts breathing fire at him. The lady, now as a dragonfly, tells him to use his enemy's force against them. So he breathes in this fire and then breathes it back to the dragon, turning him to ash. The woman tells him now that he made peace with danger, he has the power. He goes inside and sees Muriel's bones being taken out.
Acupuncture.
This is not acupuncture. This is deboning.
And the Empress and him battle it out. She tries to use her laser vision on him, but he just uses a mirror to reflect it back to her, and she turns to stone. The woman as a dragonfly comes in and transforms into the Empress, but she's the good Empress. Thanks to Courage defeating her, Courage has brought back balance and peace. The nephew rebones Muriel, but she's left like this, and then it pans to Eustace being eaten by the tiger.
Yeah, magical.
Muriel's telling Eustace to go to the store to pick up some stuff, and he's just completely ignoring her.
Eustace? Vinegar! Vinegar!
She stands in front of the TV, and he just tells her to get out of the way and that he doesn't care what she's saying. So Muriel, hurt by this, vows to just not speak ever again.
I'm keeping my thoughts to myself.
What?
The next day, Muriel is still not speaking, and Courage tries everything. Courage calls a doctor. He's zero help. He goes to Shirley, and she goes extreme. She tells him that she will bring upon the deepest, darkest curse that can only be stopped by Muriel's voice, but this curse will not stop until she does so. So if she doesn't, nothing else can stop it. The curse begins before Courage can even get home. And it's this giant starfish creature who's making its way to the farmhouse. Shirley offers him a faster method of transportation, but he needs to pay up. So he lays his 14-karat gold egg, and she gives him a unicycle. He races home to beat the starfish to Muriel, and on its way there, the starfish destroys the town. Courage makes it home and tries to warn Muriel, and Muriel is about to say something, but then Eustace tells her to stop playing her hippie music, and she goes back to the silent treatment. The creature has made it to the house and destroys the windmill. Courage takes Muriel outside to show her what's going on, but she still isn't talking, so he decides to just put himself in the path of the creature. He screams one last time for her, and Muriel looks up and sees Courage and screams for him, and this works. And then she realizes that she stopped it with her voice, so what she says actually does matter, regardless of what Eustace says. That night, Muriel scolds Eustace for not caring about what she said, and he's just nodding because Courage taped his mouth shut. He also lays another egg. This one was a rough one to get through for me. It's not that fun. And you've noticed that I'm not really commenting too much on the episodes, regardless if I like them or not, but this one was rough. So they're at Wet World watching the JoJo performing Dolphin show. Courage is having a good time, but Eustace is just talking shit, saying that he can swim better than any fish can. Eustace drops his hot dog in the dolphin's blowhole. This causes them to kind of go back and forth. He keeps splashing them. Eustace keeps talking shit. And in the crowd, we see some recurring characters. It ends with them challenging each other to a swimming contest. Eustace belly flops into the tank and doesn't even come close to beating this dolphin. He says that he wants a rematch tomorrow. Muriel and Courage are at the gate waiting for Eustace to come back, and when he gets back, he says that the rematch is set. They just had to go over some items before, and it turns out that Eustace bet that if he loses, Muriel has to be JoJo's sidekick for the rest of her life. That night they're practicing in the bathtub, and it's not going well. Eustace even creates this contraption, and I don't know why, because this tells me that he doesn't even know how to swim, so him making this bet is even crazier to me. Eustace completely gives up, and Muriel, not wanting to be JoJo's sidekick, has to come up with something. So her and Courage come up with a little scheme where Courage dresses up as the world's best psychiatrist. and hypnotizes Eustace into thinking he is better. Also, Courage's psychiatrist's name is Dr. Van Bubenheimer. It actually works, and a new and improved Eustace breaks out of the old Eustace's skin. It's weird. The next day, the rematch begins, and Eustace is keeping up. He's doing very well until the trainer cheats and knocks his head with the bucket. Eustace's confidence dwindles after this, so Courage tries to hypnotize him again, but it doesn't work. Instead, it works on Jojo and the trainer, and they get hypnotized into having their worst selves come out. And for Jojo, it's this little red fish. And for the trainer, it's this lizard. Anyway, Eustace ends up winning, and that night, he's swimming in a tank in the living room.
Win! Win! Win!
Courage and Muriel are playing pirates because this really spruces up their seafood Sunday luncheon.
Ahoy, my mateys! 12 bells means it's time for grub in the galley.
Courage sees something out the window and it starts to move, and it turns out that it's a dragon. The dragon breaks in and swallows Eustace whole. It chases Courage and Muriel, but not very well because it can't really run or fly. Muriel feels bad for it, and the dragon admits that he's the only one in his family who can't fly. So then Courage agrees to help him fly if he doesn't eat them. Courage does some tests. But nothing works. So because Courage didn't hold up his end of the bargain, which is helping him fly, the dragon doesn't have to, so he starts chasing them to eat them. He chases them all throughout this forest until they get to this body of water. Courage jumps in with Muriel, and the dragon doesn't get in because he can't swim either. And just then another dragon pops out from the water. He tells them that he's a water dragon. They don't have to be scared though because he doesn't want to eat them. Water dragons only eat fish. So then Courage realizes, oh my god, maybe this dragon is a water dragon, not a flying dragon. He offers him fish, and he likes this much better than people because flying dragons eat people. He gets into the lake and he realizes his arms aren't arms, they're fins. So he's a water dragon. And then the other dragon recognizes him as his long-lost brother, William. Apparently his parents lost them during a storm, and he must have gotten adopted by flying dragons, which is why he's the only one who couldn't fly. So he throws up Eustace and gets him out of his stomach. And while they're having their little seafood dinner now, a flying dragon eats Eustace.
Stupid dragon!
This is another super emotional episode that I don't remember watching. I wonder if Cartoon Network would not rerun certain episodes that maybe got a lot of backlash, but I don't know, the scary ones I remember watching a lot. This one I don't remember ever watching. It starts off with this squid flying through space. It emits stars from its tentacles that join the rest of the stars, so it makes the stars that we see in the sky. Soon, this squid comes up, his mate. And she shows up with these little babies. Ooh, this part's tough. As they're embracing, they start to get sucked in by this giant whale. It is engulfing everything, including the stars, and the dad squid sacrifices himself to save his, I guess, wife, I don't know, to save the other squid and the babies. Oh God, this is so sad. He lets himself be taken right into the mouth of the whale, but right before he gets in, he spreads all of his tentacles to block his mouth from sucking in anything else. And then I'm not sure if he blows up, but something happens. He just turns into stars at this point. He doesn't get eaten, but he does just turn into stars completely. The mom squid just floats throughout space and she goes straight for Earth, where she spots the farm. So that's her target. Courage goes outside to get the paper and sees her crash land in their front yard. He goes inside to tell them, and Muriel goes out and sees a squid and sees her bury her babies and go on top of it. She approaches it with Courage and she thinks it's just a regular squid, but then the squid, she makes Courage a star to calm him down because he's really scared. Muriel asks her where she's from and she just points to the sky. Eustace sees this as a chance to make money, so he runs inside to make a phone call. She shows Muriel how she makes the stars from the heavens above, and she's sadly the last of their kind. Muriel tells her that they will take care of her, but sadly the US government show up with their trucks and their labs. They pay Eustace $1 million for this, and then they start to take her. Muriel tries to stop them, but she ends up getting arrested for it. They set up the lab and hook the squid up to this thing and also take her babies from her. Muriel tells Courage to save her, otherwise there's never going to be a new star in the sky. Courage sneaks into the lab and beats the shit out of one of the guards who spots him. He takes the squid babies and then he has to sneak into the lab that the mom is in, and there's no way for him to enter unseen except through this that's holding all of the vital squid fluid that they're pumping out of her. He sneaks inside and goes underneath her with the babies to hide, and the scientists are about to grab them out from under her. She uses her tentacles to stop them, and just then the babies start to hatch. The babies float into the sky and the mom watches them leave. The lab collapses, so the mom is able to get out, and she dies and turns into a garden.
How lovely. She's becoming a garden. From making stars above to making flowers on the earth.
The general comes back because he got a promotion of some kind, and they agree to let Muriel go if she just keeps her secret. They also tell her that the money that they gave Eustace was made with experimental rocket fuel, and he gets shot into the sky and blows up into a constellation of himself.
Oh my!
You stupid dog!
Yeah, this episode also so sad. The dad sacrificed himself for her and the babies, and then she had to sacrifice herself because she knew if she didn't, their kind could never exist ever again. Now her babies are free to do exactly what they were doing, and it's just I'm kind of glad I didn't see this as a kid because I think it would have stuck with me for way too long. A spaceship is approaching Earth, and we see this video message, and this is the wife of the chicken from outer space that Courage blew up in the pilot. Not even Courage, he blew himself up. But anyway, it's the chicken from the pilot. So this is his wife telling her kids that they need to avenge their father and destroy this dog. And if they don't, then they can't even come home. On Earth, they're redecorating the chicken coop, and they leave Courage to paint it when the spaceship crashes onto the coop. The sons of the chicken, which is just this one chicken with 3 heads, come out, and Courage runs screaming. He tries to warn them. They think he's just talking about the paint. They go out and see this destruction, and this one scene I think is reference to Saving Private Ryan. Which I've never watched, but I know that Sausage Party also made a reference to this movie, and I watched that movie. I can't watch war movies, they make me super sad, and I can handle being scared, I can handle being grossed out, but sad movies stick with me way too long. It's really hard for me to forget about them. I truly avoid a lot of sad movies, which unfortunately for me means that I don't watch a lot of classics, but I can't handle them, man. I'm way too emotional. Muriel starts gathering the chickens, and one of them is the 3-headed chicken that tries to blast Courage. They miss, thankfully, and hit Eustace instead.
Stupid dog!
Chickens fall back and come up with this new plan, which is this entire system to try to get this spider to attack Courage. This will have him tied up so that when they do the second part, which is building an entire train track with the train, they can run over him. Courage switches the track last minute and he survives. The three-headed chicken is very Three Stooges-like, and there's just a bunch of shenanigans until they start to fight each other. Courage watches them and then they just start crying. They show him the message saying that they can't come home unless they destroy him, so then Courage agrees to help. He lets them take pictures of him getting his ass beat by them so that they can take that home as proof that they destroyed him. And then they say goodbye and go on the ship back to their home planet. And the episode ends with the three of them on a chicken body for some reason. We start off in space, and there is this alien being watched who keeps punching itself.
Poor fella.
Whoever's watching it says that they can't take it anymore. It turned out to be a scientist and the ship's captain. They say that their species is beating themselves out of existence and that they need to find a cure. The scientist says that he found this one species that only uses its two arms to beat each other instead of themselves. He's talking about humans. So the captain plans on hybridizing with these creatures and then conquering their world. They go down and scoop up the entire farmhouse into the ship. They wake up to a super bright morning and Eustace makes Courage go get the paper. When he opens the door, it's so bright that he puts on his sunglasses, but then the shade reveals that it's not the sun. They're inside of the spaceship with these lights flashing on them.
Courage, you should really put on your clothes.
They take the three of them out of the house and explain to them what they're doing. Muriel agrees to help them out and says yes to the DNA transfusion. So these suction cups come out and start pumping the alien DNA into them. It's so nasty. Courage tries to stop them, but the alien says that they don't need help from those who can't walk on their hind legs, even though Courage walks on his hind legs constantly. But so he doesn't interfere, they take them to a chair. Once the DNA is done fusing with their bodies, they're going to infect them with the disease, hoping that they're able to create antibodies to then extract into a serum that can be used as the cure. Muriel asks if once they get this cure, they can be turned back to normal, and they do not answer that question. After they give them the disease, they wait for the antibodies, but unfortunately it doesn't work, and they just start beating themselves up. One of the suction cups that was pumping the disease in comes loose and sprays the captain and the scientist, so now they have the disease and now are beating themselves up. Courage sees a cat alien walk by and gets its attention so they can scratch up the sofa where he's taped to, thus setting him free. One of Eustace's hands accidentally opens a door and he gets flung into space. Who knows where he goes? Courage infects himself with the alien DNA and turns into this. And then infects himself with the disease, and he doesn't hit himself, so he extracts his antibodies using this into the sprinkler system that sprays all over them, curing them all. The scientist extracts even more serum from Courage and says that this will be enough to cure their entire species. The captain drinks half of this, by the way. I don't know why he does this, but he says that it'll be fine. And they take out their alien DNA and they go back to normal. Their house gets dropped back onto its spot. Meanwhile, Eustace is still in space and he got caught by this alien who is feeding it like a child.
Right.
Muriel is knitting a blanket. Eustace thinks that it's for him since his is raggedy, but it turns out that it's for Courage. Muriel says that Eustace already has his chair, so let Courage have his blanket.
What you doing? Giving him a new blanket to that filthy dog?
Eustace is so jealous that he literally says that he hates Courage and walks away.
I hate that dumb dog.
Oh, don't you fret, Courage. He doesn't hate you.
Him. Oh my god, he's the worst. He then goes on to call some of Courage's old enemies, the villains that he's defeated over the show, and they meet in his basement and plot on how to destroy Courage.
Who are we gonna destroy?
Muriel and Courage go grocery shopping so that Eustace can cool down, and when they get back, they hear chanting from downstairs, and Eustace lies to her and says that it's just a men's club. Downstairs, the first part of their plan is to kidnap Muriel because they know that Courage will save her. Muriel brings Eustace's friends sandwiches, but then she sees that one of them is the queen from the Black Petal, so she realizes it's not a men's club and gets kidnapped. They tie her up and tell her to scream so that Courage can come downstairs, but she refuses until Kat starts mixing her whites and colors in the laundry and putting bleach in it. She screams, Courage comes down, and he gets ambushed.
Remember us?
They want him to suffer before he dies, so they play a game of dodgeball. It's all of them versus Courage, and the loser is finished. They hit him with everything. They hit him with a spiked dodgeball, spicy Cajun pierogies, underwater creatures, multiple dodgeballs at once. Courage calls a timeout to put fabric softener in the washer, and Muriel calls him a good boy. The weremole bites him, but before he can fully eat him, it's halftime. So we get a little halftime show from these guys. He gets hit with arrows, a piano, water balloons. And he still doesn't give up. Muriel tries to encourage him and tells him that there has to be something that he's better at than them. And he finds that. He screams his lungs out. He screams until the floor literally collapses and they all fall in. Even Muriel's chains break, and she goes to switch the washing machine's settings to gentle before she goes to comfort Courage, who looks like this, by the way.
Courage, what big lungs you have!
He got absolutely beat up this episode. I feel so terrible for him. This is not a fun episode. These are not the episodes I want to watch. It's messed up. But she does bonk Eustace for having this men's club.
Hello, Muriel. Oh, what'd I do?
Later, Courage is in Eustace's chair and he has casts all over him while Eustace is on the floor on Courage's blanket. And while they're watching TV, Fred appears.
How's that for menace?
I don't like this episode. They're in Hollywood at the Star. We see a Benton Terrence Hello star. Muriel sees her fave star, Dolores, and then Courage sees a Flashy star. We also bump into Dai Long, and then we see that he has headshots with his signature, and I think this is when we find out his name is Dai Long.
I make sure you never work in this town again.
They walk around Hollywood and fall into a manhole. They fall all the way down into what seems like an underground dinner theater type of thing. Courage sees this thing on the wall. But they decide to stay because the thing tells them that there's no cover charge. And they also get the chance to perform, and if he likes their performance, they win prizes. So Eustace goes up first. His prize can be a solid gold truck. Eustace tries to sing and he gives this creature heartburn. So he gets rid of him via a trapdoor. Next up is Muriel, and her prize can be the life of the star Dolores. She doesn't impress me either, so she too falls victim to this trapdoor. Courage wants to perform next. The thing offers him 1,000 sirloin steaks, very raw and very juicy. He is tempted, but he says no. Then he offers him 1,000 leather shoes that he can chew on. Again, very tempting, but he still says no. So he's like, okay, fine, I'll let you pick your prize if you win. Courage puts on a show. but when he slips, he crashes onto the piano, which crashes through the floor, revealing stomach acid, and Muriel and Eustace are being digested.
Save us! I think we're getting digested.
He saves them both, and Eustace's whole bottom half has been digested. He's just a skeleton, while Muriel's dress got a little burnt. Courage tells him that he wants to leave with his family, and this gives this creature a heart attack.
My heart over there in the middle of the room.
Courage finds his heart under the floor and has to give him CPR. This ends up working, and the creature feels better and is more optimistic that maybe not every single person wants something materialistic. He feels so good that his insides that were covering this place start to come back into it. And it reveals this man, this regular looking man. Apparently, he became so disgusted with people's behavior that he turned into a stomach ulcer inside of his stomach. Muriel asks if it's okay if she can finish her song, and he says yes, but then she gets interrupted by Die Lung, but then he gets trapdoored and falls into the acid.
So I could never tell.
Courage is digging in the yard and he finds a book. Muriel sees this and tells him that he was supposed to return this book years ago. It is 2 years overdue. So Courage takes it to the library to try to return it, but the fee on it is $3,972. Gets home, breaks open his piggy bank. There's no money there. Muriel tries to give him some spare change, but Eustace snatches it up and tells him that he needs to work for his money. Courage looks so sad here.
Eustace, we should help the poor dear.
Muriel picks up the book and gets a paper cut, and then Eustace also gets one, and then they transform into the characters in the book. They start acting out this book, which is this pickly troll thing chasing this pixie around. Muriel and Eustace start fighting as these creatures on this billboard, and Courage, to try to stop this, goes to the library to try to return it once again, but this time he owes like $72,000. He goes into the movie theater and he steals the curtain, puts it over them, and then starts charging all the people in the crowd $100 per ticket to watch this. He gets $10,000 from this, but now it's over $1 million. So he argues with the librarian. She knocks it down to $10,000 and 1 cent, and you have to pay it in full. Thankfully though, Courage finds a penny stuck on his foot with some gum. And he puts that in the pile and he is good to go. Muriel and Eustace turn back into normal while they're in an animal exhibit, and we're all good here. There's a reason why this was last. It's extremely emotional. I cried while rewatching it. I'm probably gonna cry while talking about it. It makes me so sad. I think it makes everyone sad though, right? They went for it and they did it. They got us, and it was truly a necessary episode, but it was just really sad. Okay. This is Courage's origin story. It starts at the farmhouse. Muriel is making chicken dumplings, Courage's favorite.
Yes! Eustace, dinner's about ready.
He eats them with a nice glass of milk, and on the milk carton he sees missing dog posters. This makes him have this flashback. So his parents have to take him to the vet to get him out. The vet saws off the fence, and Courage is fine. He gives him a lollipop to make him feel better. And then the vet asks to speak to his parents.
In private.
So Courage goes out by himself and then rips off his tongue on the lollipop and starts crying. So he tries to run back to his parents, but his parents aren't there anymore. He sees them being kidnapped by the vet.
Take me from my baby.
Eustace interrupts his flashback, and Courage is too sad to finish his dumplings.
Something wrong with them?
The next day, Courage is still in the same exact spot. He hasn't moved. Eustace even tries scaring him with the mask and nothing works. So Muriel is scared for him and says that they need to take him to the vet. This triggers another flashback. Back at the vet, baby Courage tries to follow his parents, but gets lost in the sea of doors. He finds them in this one room where he sees a bunch of other dogs also in crates, and he just screams. Back in the present, he is also screaming because they have made it to the vet, and it's the same vet that took his parents. The vet asks if he can have a moment alone with Courage. The vet asks to speak to Courage in private, and Muriel and Eustace agree, but Courage isn't letting him do this, so he just runs right through the same door that he saw when he was a baby. And he's chased by the vet and Muriel and Eustace. Back in the flashback, he finds the vet putting his parents in a rocket. He tries to save them, but he can't open the door, and the timer is set for 60 seconds. His parents see him from the window, and then the vet spots him too and starts chasing him. In the present day, the vet also catches up to Courage and puts him in the rocket, saying that it's his turn now. Muriel and Eustace catch up and see him doing this, so the vet says that they have to go too because they've seen too much. His whole plan is to send dogs into space and to make them into these super dogs. During the flashback, the vet is still chasing baby Courage and he falls through this trash chute. I might have to use AI for this. Oh my god, I don't even know if I could say this. Courage watches from the dumpster as the rocket launches and his parents get sent to space. During the present, Muriel and Eustace also get put into the rocket, but Courage is able to escape. Once the vet catches up to him, Courage screams into his stethoscope and steals his keys to then get Muriel and Eustace out. They push the vet into the rocket with only 10 seconds left. Now it's his turn to go into the rocket and get shot into space. Courage is crying. Muriel finds him and thinks he's brave for being by himself, and she takes him home.
What courage you have. Would you like to come home with me?
That was so easy. Anyway, back in the present, they wonder whatever happened to the veterinarian. We see his rocket land on the planet that he sent all the dogs to, and all of the dogs, including Courage's parents, are still there, and they hopefully rip him limb by limb. Sure, seeing that his parents are still alive brings me some sort of comfort, but it's just not enough for me. I want to see them reunite, even if they can't be together anymore because he's Muriel's now, you know? Or even maybe, why not? Why not Muriel just adopts all three of them? I don't know if that works because they're fully talking dogs. I'm not sure, but maybe they build a little house next to them so that Courage can see them both. Give me something. It can't end like this. I hate it. Courage is helping Eustace change a tire, but he cranks it up too high and flips the truck over. Eustace berates him for not doing anything right and that he needs to be sent to some type of school to make him perfect or something. I don't know. Muriel calls Eustace about a package and it's this boogle thing, but there's a crack in it. He wants to play with it, so he tells Courage to change the oil in the boiler. Muriel tells him to help her make baklava instead. While he's trying to make it, the dough is supposed to be super thin and airy, but he makes it too thin that it just turns into dust. She tells him to just crack open these walnuts, and when he tries to, he breaks the table. She tells him to go get Eustace and then she'll clean up. But then when he goes to leave the kitchen, he sees this woman who calls him a disgrace. So he freaks out. Muriel says, okay, fine, I'll go get Eustace and then you clean up. When she leaves, the teacher comes back and tells him to walk correctly. She does that book test, but he fails miserably and she scolds him for not being perfect.
You're not the least bit perfect.
In the attic, now a classroom, she is giving him perfect lessons. First is speaking perfect, and Courage can't speak, so he just babbles. Next is trying to make something perfectly. She tells Courage to make the Eiffel Tower out of toothpicks and glue.
Let's see if you can make something perfectly.
Fails, so she shows him the work of another pupil, Dai Long, and he's outside with his Eiffel Tower. It's perfect. She assigns him one last task for the night, which is to sleep perfectly. Courage can't sleep that night. He has nightmares, and very scary nightmares, I might add. The first one is this thing.
You're not perfect.
Next is him as the characters from Wizard of Oz. He's the Tin Man, Scarecrow, and Lion. The third one is just these symbols. The fourth one is a 3D dream, and he is juggling some pies, but then he looks down and he has no pants on, so they're all laughing at him, and then he drops all the pies on himself, which makes everyone laugh even more. And the last one is Muriel giving him a vase, but he's too scared to break it, so he gives it back. But then Muriel starts to break. And he finally gets kicked out. The next day he has not been able to sleep and he has an exam, and if he doesn't score perfectly on it, there will be consequences. Everyone will know that he's imperfect everywhere he goes. He has to go to the bathroom. She tells him he can go, but to practice brushing his teeth perfectly. In the bathroom there's this fish who tells him there's no such thing as perfect. He is beautiful the way he is.
With all your imperfections, you can do anything.
He goes back to his lessons much happier, and he's tasked with drawing a perfect number 6. He draws this, and when she's like, that's not a 6, he folds the paper to make this abstract 6. This causes her to freak the out to the point where she just melts into a puddle. And then she just disappears, and her chalkboard also disappears. At dinner, they're eating the baklava, and the fish from the tub gives us a thumbs up.
Perfect!
And that's the end of Courage the Cowardly Dog, at least the main series. This episode premiered in 2014, and it happened because a fan of the show that worked for Cartoon Network Asia paid the director to make it, and it's 3D animated unlike the original show. Wallace Shawn plays Eustace this time. He really didn't want him to play Eustace, he wanted him to do his own Eustace, and he said that if the series ever went further that he would have loved to have him because he really liked him in The Princess Bride and like his other movies. I know him from so many side characters, for example Gossip Girl, but his voice is super recognizable. Courage is outside digging and he finds this necklace. It has an engraving. He takes it back inside and this foggy hand tries to grab it, but he can't. Inside, Muriel is cleaning up, Eustace is refusing to help, and Courage gives her this necklace.
Ooh, isn't that lovely?
Eustace takes it from her and makes Courage research it, and the computer tells him that it's a very valuable necklace.
The Cariana love locket, a medieval antique.
But it does come with a curse, so whoever takes it will be separated from their loved ones forever. Eustace doesn't care about this, so he goes to sell it. When Eustace is leaving, this figure in the fog starts to engulf the farm. Courage snatches him out just in time before he's completely lost in it. There's a knock at the door, Muriel opens it, and the fog gets inside and starts chasing him throughout the house. The fog has completely taken over the entire house, and Courage can't find Muriel or Eustace. He does hear her screaming, so he tries to follow that, but he runs into Eustace first. He's still trying to find Muriel, so he goes to the roof and Eustace follows. The fog corners the both of them, and Eustace still refuses to give the necklace back.
Can a man be alone with his jewelry?
So Courage makes a hole on the roof, causing Eustace to fall through, and he snatches the necklace when he falls. He throws the necklace into the fog, and Eustace leaps out to try to grab it.
Give back my necklace!
Muriel almost falls off of the roof because she couldn't tell that she was on the edge, and Courage saves her. The next day, Eustace is in the hole having found the necklace, but he's sharing it with the fog ghost.
What? Cariana? Get off my property! Stupid fog!
And now that's the end of Courage the Cowardly Dog. There is a movie though, which is so funny because this wasn't planned, but my first recap video was Scooby-Doo and this one's Courage the Cowardly Dog, and they actually did a movie together, but I felt like that was for a separate video since it's a movie, not really the show. Oh, that is the end of Courage the Cowardly Dog. Y'all already know I love to see what little villains they included, so let's go. The deer from Farmer Hunter, Farmer Hunted, not sure why, but whatever. The artist from Profiles of Courage. We have one of the vandals from the Windmill Vandals. We have the dragon from Food of the Dragon, and finally the swamp monster. Okay, and now let's get to ranking the episodes. One of my favorite parts. I wish I did this whilst filming, but it does take a really long time to do. As always, off the dome, bottom up. So let's go. So while filming, I said I could not stand this episode. On my rewatch, it's not the worst, but it's just, I think, truly like one of the bottom tiers. But like, I just can't hate it. And it was cute, like a little psychiatrist like Courage dressed up as. I love Courage, but stories around Eustace are so horrible because he's just the worst. And they have to do this to save Muriel. Otherwise, Muriel is in danger. So it's just annoying that this man chose to race a dolphin for whatever reason, thinking he would win, and then bet Muriel on it. Bet yourself on it, please, so that when you lose, I can have so much fun relishing in it. Again, guys, the Eustace episodes, I cannot stand this man, I'm sorry. But this one is a little higher because it delved deeper into Eustace's backstory. Like, he was truly a loser, and he's always been a loser, and that's why he takes out his anger out on Courage, because everyone treated him like garbage. So, you know, cycle of abuse, we hate that. So I just had a little bit of that, but again, what is he trying to prove, that he can go hunting? I feel like he always goes hunting. I guess because he couldn't go to the competition, but still, like, just go by yourself. Why does Courage have to go? Why does he always have to go and entertain this man? And then we're seeing cute little animals frolicking, and of course Eustace ruins it. Like, he ruins everything, but his comeuppance at the end was fun to watch, especially fun to watch because Courage was at home safe with Muriel. Muriel just does not learn her lesson. She knew damn well that those carrots are the reason she kept growing and growing. And she ate even more of them and was growing again. So it was just like one of those episodes. It was just like a silly conclusion. But it's just, I don't know. It was one of those meh episodes. It wasn't that fun to watch, but it wasn't the worst. I know, kind of surprising this is really low, but honestly, it wasn't that good. I can't stand that Three Stooges type of comedy. Cartoons love it, but truly, I've never liked it. I don't find them funny, and they're just annoying. You know, at the very least with this one, though, Courage wasn't getting actually hurt. He was helping these guys out because the wife has a lot of resentment towards him. What I do like about it, though, is that there are consequences to some of these episodes, and it's the pilot. Like, it deserves like a little something, but I think I gave it the little something with the Return of the Chicken from Outer Space, the trilogy. The third one's not always the best in the franchise, and I feel like this is just a perfect example of that. It was cute, it was silly, I'll give it that, but as an overall episode, I don't know, it just didn't do it for me. This was very Monster House. I just didn't really like the villain, like the haunted house. I feel like they really didn't do much with it besides it attacking the house. I feel like they should have made it so that it's attacking, you know, Muriel, Eustace, and Courage individually, but Courage just goes over there and paints, so it's not so much of a threat besides to its owner. If he just goes back, then everything's perfectly fine. So there's not really that much of a threat. It just really wasn't my favorite either. Like a lot of these bottom ones, like they're not the worst, but it's just like if I had to choose, like these would just be at the bottom of my list. So these next 10 truly, like, they can be interchangeable. There's only like just very small things that I liked a little bit better that put it above the other ones, but I just feel like if I rewatched it, I can just change these around. Like, it's really not so set in stone with these. When I first watched this episode, I did not like it, but on my rewatch, I thought it was kind of cute how Courage, has a little jazz thing, and the ending with him and his little friend performing. Ugh, I absolutely love that. So that definitely boosted it up. Is he even a villain? Not really. He's just doing what he gotta do, and he just hates it. I'm glad that his dad is supporting him at the end. I can just kind of see like the thought process, like, okay, the house is flooding. What's causing the flood? A dam. How can Courage stop the dam? To get this beaver who loves music to just tap his tail and destroy it somehow. And I think they had to kind of fill it in with the little lobster shenanigans, and also getting to the dam took a little bit. So it was just a lot of twists and turns to get to where we got, but I like the ending. I thought it was cute, and I enjoy seeing when Courage has a little happy ending and he helps out the antagonist of the episode, because they really weren't an antagonist. They were more just, let's say, complicated. I just really feel like they wanted to do the ballet in this episode, and they had to figure out a way to do it, and that's why I think it's a little jumbled, because they chose a dump as a location and then these rats to be doing this little dance. It was just kind of out of character, because why are they so okay with getting locked up at the dump? Like, why? I get that they're just oblivious to the fact, but come on, like, surely they know when things close. They don't typically stay past closing, right? And surely at the end, at the very least, they realized it was closing and they're just trapped there. The rats weren't really interesting villains because they didn't talk. They were just dancing around and cooking up humans that were left behind. Truly, just aside from the whole ballet nutcracker theme that was going on, they didn't really have much else, but I enjoy seeing Courage have fun with his little toy. There's just a little bit more artisticness to this one, I suppose, so that's why I put it a little bit higher. Again, Lequac does not really do it for me as a villain. I don't know what it is, but I think I like this one the best because he kind of dropped his whole hypnotizing thing that he did twice now. He opted for something a little bit more manipulative, and that is to convince this old lady that she needs to get the secret ingredient and just constantly throwing her out the hot air balloon. And she was really good, she got all of the money. She's a good robber, whether she knows it or not. And I thought that whole aspect was fun. Like, the world tour was fun, seeing like all of the different places that they dropped. Eustace wasn't so much of a bother because he was hard of seeing most of the episode. And at the end, they got their little ingredient for their cookies. And I just enjoy seeing Muriel partake in things that make her happy, like baking. This one I loved because Courage was forced to figure this problem out on his own. Even besides Muriel and Eustace turning into those fairy tale creatures, he still had to come up with the money somehow. So the fact that this random thing happened, I have no idea why, but the fact that this random thing happened and he monetized it to pay off his fine. He's about making money, and I love that. He's just so smart, and it's so cute. And he got a little sassy this episode fighting with the librarian because what the you mean? $1 million fine. It's been a minute. So I like seeing him stand up for himself. I don't know if you noticed, but this episode I skipped through a lot because I remember watching it and like filling it out like, okay, they do this. Okay, they do this. Okay, they do this. It was just so repetitive after some point. It just really didn't add too much value to the episode. Every time Muriel and Eustace become these ridiculous things, I'm just kind of like, okay, let's just focus all of our attention on Courage, because he's usually the best when he's put into these type of situations. This one was higher because, oh my god, Muriel took a hit. She usually never takes a hit. I love seeing Courage ride for Muriel, taking her to hot springs on his back to make sure that she feels better, because that's all that matters to him. And seeing these characteristics in Courage, truly a heartwarming thing to watch. I love that. That's his mother. And thankfully Eustace was somewhere with a cave lady most of the episode, and it taught kids an important lesson about littering and treating nature like garbage, because the animals are the ones who suffer. I really enjoyed this one, and like the goat clearly had a reason not to trust them, and I think Courage and Muriel both kind of understood it. They weren't like, well, we didn't do that, they were still trying to work with him regardless of how he felt about them. And they fixed the hot spring, and it just looked so beautiful, and hopefully no other humans come back because they destroyed it and they dried it up, and that's the last thing they know about it. just love seeing Muriel and Courage have fun. It's so cute, the little things that they do to spruce up their life. You would think that Muriel is just entertaining Courage because he's like a little kid, but no, I really feel like Muriel loves doing these things. Why did she end up with Eustace? He sucks. And yeah, I thought the villain was fun, like a dragon. One of the very few mythical creatures missing from this entire show. So that was fun to see it included. And it was cute that they reunited him with his family, even though he should have been fine, even though he was adopted, because there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think they were thinking that deep into it, so that's perfectly fine. Courage truly tried with all of those tests, and I love seeing it. He's so adorable. Okay, so we have another episode where there's a villain. Turns out he's just a misunderstood villain. At the end, Muriel and Courage sort out their situation and their lives and just make it so much better. Rumpled Kiltskin, whatever. Truly insane to bring this woman under false pretenses that one of her family members passed and that she is the only one who can save this family tradition. You know, Muriel's always down to help, and then to use her as slave labor. Had like giggles here and there. Muriel somehow thinking that she can lower Courage down with her 5 inches of hair. Courage coming up with a plan to use a fake check and it's still not working. I love that. And then the charades I thought was cute, but I feel like it took up like a little bit too much of the episode. It was just still a fun episode. Okay, so I feel like this one and the last 3 episodes are essentially the same. There's a villain. Courage has to do everything he can to save Muriel from this villain, and somehow Courage and Muriel help out this villain figure out whatever issues it's having. This time, the swamp monster thought Muriel was his swamp wife and just kidnaps her. So ew, another creep trying to get at Muriel, even though she is not interested because she's screaming. Let's just pretend like him thinking that this is actually his wife is a valid excuse. Once Courage brought her to him, he let Muriel go, so sure. It's not that high. It's the highest of the ones that are similar because it had a little bit more of a horror element to it, but I feel like the swamp woman whole thing was kind of funny, but I feel like it just took way too long, and the fact that they did all that just for them to hate each other at the end, it just felt like a trip was truly wasted, but at the very least that's not our problem. This one I enjoyed because Muriel bitched out Eustace completely because he deserved it. He is truly just the worst, and I hate that most of the episodes she kind of just puts up with it. This one, he'd rather not speak ever again than deal with this man. That's how annoying he is. Encourage doing everything he can to save her. Absolutely love that. The curse was insane, Shirley. I feel like it was necessary because nothing else was going to make her talk besides this. And again, Muriel's love for Courage saves the world, essentially. Love the design of the monster. Thought it was so much fun. It really puts a lot of pressure on this episode. It makes every decision so much more important. Every decision Courage makes, it has to be on point. Really fun episode. Enjoy seeing Muriel and Courage's relationship. I always love seeing their love being the reason why everything gets fixed. Okay, so this one I thought was really fun because the whole alien thing, I feel like it kind of went slow in the beginning and then it was like super rushed towards the middle and end. And it also kind of feels like we've done this episode before. Like with the car broke phone, yes, that episode is kind of similar except the opposite. Like they were looking for ways to destroy the world and these aliens were looking for ways to save their world. But I feel like it was kind of the same thing. Also kind of silly, like why would you just automatically assume that Courage's DNA won't work because he doesn't walk on his hind legs even though he literally does all the time. This episode was jumping through a lot of hoops, but because I do enjoy the whole alien thing, I enjoy the character design, I enjoy like just being in a sci-fi environment, it's higher. This one just missed it by a little because even though I do like the alien look, I like all of it, there was just another episode I like a little bit more, even though this one is more of my favorite genre. Okay, so now we're in the top 10. Y'all know me, I'm a little bit more of a horror girly, but honestly a lot of these episodes aren't necessarily horror. They're just extremely emotional and I just kind of feel like they put so much effort into these. Amazing, and they're beautiful and like emotional and they stick with you forever, and I love all of these. Yo, they love going on vacation. I don't know if they mentioned this episode, but I'm pretty sure it was free. I enjoyed the journey that Courage went on. I feel like this was a really dense episode. They did so much this episode that I had fun, and the Empress was truly scary. She was making him debone her, and the fact that she was the evil twin. Oh my god. I love an evil twin, except for Pretty Little Liars. It's the only evil twin I hate. It was kind of like a Kung Fu Pandas type of story, like Courage's little odyssey to get to the castle and save Muriel. Really tested Courage, and I feel like if no other point, at this point, he should be considered a hero. Again, we're not at the farmhouse. We are in Hollywood, and it's just a fun little trip that the family's going on. And you know, everyone working here works in Hollywood. They're in the entertainment business, so these little shots at their business is interesting to watch. I love the shadiness, you know. Probably don't realize that as a kid, but as an adult, you understand what they're trying to say about it. It's sad that they kind of became victim to it just because some stupid idiot, whoever became the new lead of Cartoon Network, for some reason decided that Courage wasn't good enough. Is the reason why we don't have more episodes. The stomach ulcer was just horrible to look at. I didn't really include too much of it, but when they did this eye thing, oh my god, I remember this from my childhood. These are choices, animation that just sticks with you forever, and it has to be recognized. And again, Courage's pure soul, he's not going to choose steaks or boots over his family. He should for Eustace, but you see how pure his soul is, and I love him so much.
Damn, 5 8. Oh, I hope she ain't late. Big leg sister. Hope she ain't late.
I really enjoyed the setting that we were in, like that little kind of New Orleans type of thing. What is it called? I have no idea. Like kind of like the Princess and the Frog type of vibe. It just screams Louisiana to me, okay? Like that whole like voodoo type of thing, like dark magic. Oh, I love that. And I remember seeing this as a kid and being so freaked out by the way that Big Bayou was defeated. That is so creepy. Like his skin, literally his vanity ate his ass up. And another episode of them helping little creatures. I mean, it's kind of shady that they infected Muriel just to save them, but you know, they had to do what they had to do, and I feel bad. They're all little slaves. Like, oh my god. I just love that they came up with so many new designs for this episode, like Big Bayou, his house, the little cave they were stuck in, the swamp, like all of that. Even just like the idea, just her sneezing a little video message out. I thought that was so funny. This one was really creepy, guys. Those keeper puppets completely sucked the life out of Muriel and Eustace. Like, they were skeletons. That's insane. Truly, it was really sad seeing like they finally got what they wanted, which is to be alive. They couldn't do anything with it. That must be just so devastating. And it was because of this artist's fault, convincing his art that it needs to physically be alive to be alive. Again, more subtle commentary on just art itself. And I think this one's a little deeper because, you know, Dilworth always says that every interpretation of his art, the show, is correct, because who is he to tell you that your interpretation of art is wrong, which I agree to a certain extent. I think some parts are super open-ended, but I feel like some things which are just straight up factual should be explored a little bit more, and it should come from the creator telling us what the heck is going on. But totally get the message with this one. It was really wholesome for Courage to teach this art that it doesn't need, I guess, a human soul to really be alive, and just show them how much fun they could be just as paper. And it was truly a happy ending, and I'm sure that artist went home and just colored all of his little cutouts. I can only imagine. This one was going to go lower because I hate Eustace so much. I cannot believe he took it to this extreme. I cannot believe that we have to sit there for a few episodes after this with him as just one of the main characters and someone who just gets to be there with Courage. I hate it, but I think it was a really important episode because it truly just showed how evil Eustace was. I thought it was fun that a lot of villains came back, even though they didn't really have much to do with it or most of it. They just had their little itty bitty segments, but it was fun seeing them all come back one final time, especially the ones that we only saw once. Like Cats and the Quack, we've seen a couple times already, but the Queen from the Black Puddle, love her. The Weremole, for some reason, has beef with him, I guess because he was in the little bunny costume and tricked him. Those villains Courage defeated, as opposed to like the snowman who, once he got his home back because of Courage, left them alone. It wasn't a fun episode to watch. Seeing him get absolutely wrecked was awful, and it wasn't just, you know, where he does his little laugh and it goes back to normal. He was sitting in Eustace's chair with casts on, and I don't think Eustace sitting on a blanket on the floor is enough punishment. I think he should have been chained up to a tree going into a shredder. All right guys, we're at the top 5. As a horror girly, only one of these episodes is like actually super scary. The rest of them, y'all already know which ones they are. It's just, how can I not put them at the top? The fact that they all got decapitated. I don't remember seeing this episode, and the first time I watched it on my rewatch, I was just in shock that they literally got decapitated. I also love the setting of it, the red sky, just these hating ass vandals. They're just mad because their water well dried up, as if that was the Windmill's fault, you know what I mean? I think it truly had a lot. It was a little weak with the shenanigans of them running around without their proper heads, but I think they had to put that in there because they just got decapitated, so they need to lighten the mood a little bit, so it's forgiven. Just a classic scary Courage the Cowardly Dog episode. This one was sad, but then happy at the end because, you know, we've seen Courage throughout this entire series just mess so many things up. And this is the episode that, you know, these things started to really get to him, that he just felt like a failure. And it's so much that it manifested this evil teacher. And it was manifested because of Eustace, because he suggested it and put it in his head, and it messed him up so much. It has so much psychological torture because he's having nightmares because he needs to figure out how to sleep perfectly and his nightmares are haunting him. You know, we get such scary visuals like this thing, and we get to see into Courage's psyche and how he feels with all this pressure to be perfect. The fish thing though was random. I'm not really sure why they did that. I think it could have been like a better manifestation of something telling him that he's actually perfect, but you know how they are. They love the weird stuff, so I'll give it to them. And then at the end, his little suit, and oh my god, I love it. It's not gonna be perfect, nothing ever is, but it doesn't matter. It literally just, it does not matter. That's what makes life beautiful, is just all these silly things going around. On top of that, it was the end to the series. I thought it was perfect. I'm not even joking. I cried when I watched this for the first time. I think I was like 6. I wish I could remember how I felt, but I don't think I felt great because I avoided this episode at all costs. So I knew on my rewatch this was going to be a tough one, and it was. Guys, I cried back then. I cried rewatching it. I cried writing about it. I cried editing. I might cry doing this. Every time I think about this episode, I cry. Like, I can't with this episode. It's truly just so heartbreaking seeing him just feel so alone. Like, he watched his parents get shot up on the rocket, and I think it hits harder because even though there is a happy ending, like Courage got his happy ending with Muriel, his parents are still up there and he thinks that they're just gone forever. He completely repressed it, and once he remembered, he shuts down. Mr. Dilworth, if you're watching this, please just like a comic something, like a follow-up showing them reuniting and living somewhere on the farmhouse, somewhere close to the farmhouse, so that they can be together, you know, give them their time back with their family. I can't talk about it anymore. I will start sobbing and I have to finish this video. This has to be like one of the most iconic episodes and completely flushes out this character that we all love so much. Like, he couldn't save his parents, but he's gonna save Muriel and Eustace. Oh my god. Okay, I need to stop talking about it because I will sob. The top two spots were so hard for me, guys. I really struggled with it. They're so close. Like, it really, truly, it's not that big of a difference between these two. I do not remember watching this episode as a kid, so watching this now really hit home for me because I understood all of the deeper meanings to it. I haven't cried as much as the last episode, but this has me in my feels because the constant sacrifice that this family has to make is just like getting punched in the face over and over again. We saw the dad first and then we see the mom for the babies, but they're obviously necessary sacrifices. I mean, their species has to live on, but just seeing what a mother would do for their kid is just so beautiful. These are star makers. Oh my god. And she made Courage a little star. It was just a beautifully animated episode, like visually and story wise. Everything was just, it was sad, but it was a little bit easier to accept this. But there's just something about this last one. This one was a two-parter, so it has a little more time to flesh out the story, but I truly think that it needed to make us understand what is going on. I think if it didn't have that opportunity, it wouldn't have been fair to the story. It just wouldn't have been able to have the deeper meaning that it has right now. Truly, I think all of us watched this episode not really understanding it and then realized, oh my god, this is about such heavy topics that we just didn't realize. Maybe y'all did, but me personally, absolutely not. And I think one of my favorite parts about this is, yes, Courage is terrified. You can see it. He doesn't want to do this, but one, it's to save Muriel, and two, it's also just to save Bunny. He always saves those who are in distress regardless of what happens to him, and this time he used all that fear and beat those two dogs up. Everyone calls him a coward, but no, he stands up for himself, and I feel like this was the origin of that whole idea that Courage runs away, but then he goes and gets a piece and then comes back. Like that little meme. I love that meme. Oh my god, at the end, you know, little besties, they were lovers, and I love the fact that they left that in there for us. I think what I appreciate the most about it is the fact that even the creator admits that they pushed most of the episodes and this was just one of the few that he was shocked that actually went through. It really reflects in their work, and I think this is a great example of that. And we got our happy ending. Now, I do wish, just talking about the main series, the spinoff was like a cute little thing. It could have been an episode in between any of these other ones and it wouldn't have really made an impact. I think it was more so that they came back after 12 years. I wish the story was something else besides the same like cursed object thing, because we've seen that already. So the reason it's only 4 seasons is because that's all their contract was for. And Dilworth says that there was a change in management in Cartoon Network, and this new management really wasn't interested in Courage the Cowardly Dog anymore, so they weren't able to get a 5th season, which is really sad. I do wish they were able to get more. Watching the show, it doesn't really feel like it was cut short. They did a lot of fun stories. They did a lot of deep episodes. Do I wish that we had more? Obviously. I would always love more of this, but I think we also got a lot from the time that we had with the show. I do wish that if they knew they had, you know, limited time, I wish that maybe they came up with a more conclusive ending. The 2 final episodes that were chosen were really good, but it just didn't feel conclusive. But since it's such an episodic show, I don't see them picking any other episode that would have ended the series better than those 2. So for what they were able to do, I think they did a great job. Watching the series brought back this overwhelming dread that I remember having as a kid. It didn't really scare me, but it did make me feel uneasy sometimes, especially those episodes that didn't have the most happy ending. But again, for a kid's show, that's really bold of them to include episodes like that to show us it's not always going to be a super happy ending or not the ending that you want. My only criticisms of the show are 1, to cool it with the feet. I hate the feet drawings. And 2, to not hurt Courage so much. I know it's just a cartoon and he's built for this, but seeing his little body just mangled, even though he's laughing about it, it gets a little too much sometimes, especially the ones where he's obviously hurting. It's not really played as a joke. Those moments happen way too much in the show, and I just wish they cut back on it because I hate them. It's just a personal critique. I hate seeing animals getting hurt and seeing someone as lovable as Courage getting hurt. Regardless, I'm just gonna give myself a few minutes. This is still a show that I can look back fondly on, and I'm so glad for all the memories that I got from it as a kid, as a teenager, and now. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you made it this far, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
Blue dreams, I'm with the stars when I face blunt. She a nightmare, but it'd be hard for me to wake up. Let me know what choice to cut off and get my cake up. Fuck a whole comments and my soul is all I'm saving. You don't wanna